So let's dive right into this discussion on China's economic model and how it's totally misunderstood by many in the West. It's intriguing how different perspectives come into play, especially when you consider Trump's comments on Xi Jinping.
Right? It's like a real clash of narratives, isn't it? We've got Trump calling Xi his friend, even praising him as one of the smartest leaders, while on the ground, China seems to um, be using tariff wars as a chance to pivot economically.
Exactly, and what really catches my attention is the emphasis that these professors, Dr. Keyu from LSE and Dr. Liang from Willamette, put on the whole scenario. They argue that the West has essentially misunderstood how China operates.
Yeah. What's fascinating is that instead of seeing the tariffs purely as aggressive economic moves, these economists see them as potential accelerators for China's ascendancy on the global stage.
Yeah, it's kind of like when someone flips a challenge into an
Right.
opportunity. They suggest that the pressure from the tariff war might actually expedite China's shift as the dominant economic force.
And it's not just political rhetoric. I mean, the professors really back this up with data and historical context. They push back saying, don't take a superficial look at these strategies.
Absolutely. It's like when you think about it, many assume that China's model is simply state
Yeah.
driven and inefficient. But these experts show that there's a lot more nuance, like strategic state planning interwoven with rapid market adaptations.
Right. And there's that interesting contrast. Trump's friendly chit chat with Xi versus the hard edged economic strategies that are really underpinning China's growth.
Exactly. And you know, it's like comparing a casual coffee chat with a deeply contemplative chess game.
True.
On one side, you see pop culture level diplomacy, and on the other, calculated long-term strategies.
I mean, don't you think that there's a bit of myth making here? I mean, equating personal friendship with economic efficacy seems a tad oversimplified, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I get what you're saying, but the professors they make a compelling case that while personal relationships do matter, the real currency is in the policy instruments and the economic planning.
Yep. Right. It's like just because two folks have a friendly rapport doesn't mean that the underlying systems haven't got serious mechanisms at play.
Precisely. And there's this interesting twist. Instead of viewing tariffs solely as retaliatory tools, China might be positioning itself to innovate around them, building new trade alliances and uplifting its domestic markets.
Definitely. And let's not forget the data here. I mean, the view that the West's prediction of a China collapse is largely overblown. These professors really push back on that narrative by citing robust economic indicators.
Yeah, that was a strong part of the discussion. They argue that many of the pessimistic forecasts by Western analysts ignore the resilience and adaptability of the Chinese economic apparatus.
It almost feels like there's an assumption that the Chinese model is static and not dynamic enough, right?
Exactly, and that's a misconception.
Yep.
It's more like a constantly shifting strategy that has layers, ranging from state led initiatives to embracing a sort of controlled market dynamism.
And here's a point I sometimes wonder about. Isn't it a bit risky for China to lean so heavily on this model, banking on strategic recalibrations to fend off Western pressures?
Sure, there's always risk involved.
Uh-huh.
But the professors counter that by highlighting how, historically, China's economic reforms have been incredibly adaptive. They've weathered massive systemic changes before.
That's true, and it's like they're prepared for these challenges. Maybe we can compare it to a well-tuned engine that recalibrates its timing based on the road conditions.
I love that analogy, and it really emphasizes that the Chinese economic engine isn't a one size fits all machine, it's built to adjust on the fly.
Yeah, exactly. And drilling down into tariffs, Trump's aggressive tariffs were meant to, in theory, hit China's economy hard. But in practice, it seems like China might have been ready for that, using it to, steer economic reforms.
Right, it's like a pressure valve working in reverse. Instead of causing damage, it forces innovation and accelerates internal shifts that could, in the long run, be beneficial.
But don't you think this whole idea depends a lot on, nuanced policy decisions that are made behind the scenes? It's not just an automatic switch from tariff-induced hardship to booming growth.
True, and that's a point where the professors really add depth. They say that while tariffs do impose constraints, they also spur policy adaptations, and even create opportunities for sectors that have been lagging.
Yeah, I see that. It sounds like it's a double-edged sword. And while the US might perceive it as an all-out economic stratagem, internally China might be leveraging it to retool various industries.
Exactly. And think about it. This isn't just about economic pressure, it's about repositioning power. China isn't just reacting, it's actively reshaping the global economic order.
Right. That's a pretty bold statement. Do you think the West really underestimates China's ability to reinvent its approach in the face of such external pressures?
I believe so. There's a tendency to see China as monolithic and unchanging. But the professors point out that historical reforms and current trends indicate a high degree of, well, adaptability.
Well, here's where I respectfully challenge that perspective a bit. Adaptability is great, but can it truly counteract the deep-rooted structural issues that might arise from years of tariffs and external pressure?
That's a valid point. However, the professors argue that China's state apparatus has a proven track record of revising and restructuring its economic policies swiftly when the need arises.
Right? I get that. So, are we saying that this might be a short-term win for China in terms of growth and rebalancing, even if there are underlying risks?
Essentially, yes, it's a trade off. In the short term, China might leverage the crisis like tariff war to bolster internal reforms, which could then, long term, help it challenge the existing global
Yep,
order.
that makes sense. And then there's the element of global perception. Trump's rhetoric often oversimplifies the situation, labeling economic outcomes as a direct win or loss, instead of appreciating these nuanced, multifaceted responses.
Exactly. There's a lot of symbolism in calling someone a friend when there are, vast economic forces at play behind the scenes.
It's almost like comparing a handshake to actual battle strategies. The personal rapport is just one layer of this complex interplay.
Right, and while the West might fixate on personal diplomacy, the real story unfolds in the economic policies, the reforms, and the underlying strategies that drive China's growth.
Absolutely. So, overall, we have a scenario where, despite the tariff war and our often simplistic narratives, China's economic model is more dynamic than it appears. Yeah, indeed.
Precisely. And if anything, the discourse by these Chinese professors teaches us that understanding macroeconomic strategies requires peeling back layers and not settling for surface level interpretations.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely a reminder to look deeper and question our assumptions about global economic power. Thanks for this deep dive into such a complex yet fascinating topic.